Hello and welcome to a new week and new stories here on the Bay State Banner. I'm Brashay Williams, and as always, we're bringing you the stories shaping Boston from the ground up. We start this week with District 7 candidates on Boston's future. The race to fill Boston's District 7 City Council is underway, and both candidates say they focus on rebuilding trust, strengthening neighborhoods, and delivering results for Roxbury and beyond. At a recent forum hosted by the District 7 Advisory Council, Miniyard Culpepper and Saeed Ahmed discussed everything from the White Stadium redevelopment to mass and CAS and education access. Culpepper, a longtime community pastor and former federal housing official, said he wants to make sure local voices are heard on every city project. Quote, "I will fight to my last breath to make sure White Stadium remains a space that serves Boston students and families." Ahmed, a small business owner and youth mentor, spoke about expanding opportunity through education and safety. Quote, "Our district deserves investment and fairness. We can't keep doing things the same way and expecting change." While the two differ on some issues, both emphasize collaboration and accountability. Culpepper has earned endorsements from District Attorney Kevin Hayden, State Senator Lydia Edwards, and the Boston Globe, while Ahmed said his campaign continues to build grassroots support. District 7 voters from Roxbury to Dorchester and the South End will cast their ballots on November 4th, with early voting from October 25th to the 31st. Both candidates say the same thing at heart. This election is about community, progress, and making Boston better. This week, a major blow to community finance. The Trump administration has eliminated the entire staff of the Treasury Department's Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, or CDFI, effectively freezing 11 programs that help small businesses, working families, and local neighborhoods get loans and build wealth. For over 3 decades, the CDFI fund has quietly powered opportunity where traditional banks rarely reach, from rural towns to historically disinvested urban communities. Through community-based lenders and credit unions, it has supported more than $298 billion in loans and investments, financing over 1.3 million businesses and 560,000 affordable housing units across the country. This decision ends a long-standing bipartisan success story. Created under President Clinton and strengthened by both parties, the fund has always enjoyed broad support on Capitol Hill, even from conservative leaders like Senate Banking Chair Tim Scott, who recently urged Treasury to release the funding Congress already approved. Yet, more than 100 CDFI employees have now been terminated. Treasury officials say the move aligns with the president's priorities, a phrase critics call chilling. One that puts ideology over everyday Americans. With no staff, there's no one to process funding or manage programs like the New Markets Tax Credit, which Congress had just made permanent. The authors warn that dismantling this network isn't just cruel, it's economically reckless. It undermines decades of bipartisan progress toward inclusive growth, sending a message to Black entrepreneurs, rural families, and small business owners that their futures are expendable. And the timing couldn't be worse. Black unemployment recently climbed above and over 7%. Small business loan approvals have slowed to pandemic lows, and many local economies face higher borrowing costs and shrinking federal support. The authors call on Congress to act quickly, to reopen the government, restoring staff, and ensure the CDFI fund continues operating free from political interference. Because at its heart, the fund represents one of the government's best ideas, that targeted public investment can unlock private enterprise, strengthen communities, and expand shared prosperity. Next is a news report from Boston Indicators warning the Trump administration's One Big Beautiful bill could deepen racial and economic inequality across Massachusetts. Researchers say cuts to Medicaid and SNAP will likely strip benefits from thousands of residents, leaving many families financially vulnerable. Kimberly Goulart, a senior analyst at Boston's Indicators, said if there's an emergency, you drain your savings, if you have any. It keeps families from ever getting ahead. While low-income families lose access to essentials, the law permanently extends major tax breaks for the wealthy, saving million-dollar earners around $90,000 a year compared to just $300 for families under $50,000 a year. Alyssa Benalfew-Ramos of the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts says the policy leaves communities of color without a financial cushion. Advocates are urging Massachusetts to fund local programs that help families build wealth and stability, even as federal cuts threaten to widen the racial wealth gap. As colder weather settles in, Boston is stepping up its health efforts, teaming up with community centers across the city to offer free flu, COVID, and routine vaccinations for residents and families. The Boston Public Health Commission says no insurance, ID, or appointment is required. Anyone can simply walk into their nearest clinic, though pre-registration is available for convenience. Some sites also provide routine immunizations for children. Parents are just asked to bring their child's vaccine records if possible. Health officials say the clinic are especially vital this season, as the CDC expects RSV-related hospitalizations to remain similar to last year. These free programs help ensure that families facing barriers to health care don't have to choose between cost and prevention. Michael Curry, president and CEO of the Massachusetts League of Community Health Centers, told the Banner that vaccines save lives, protecting both individuals and entire communities. A CDC study found that between 2009 and 2019, Black Americans had the highest rates of flu-related hospitalizations among all racial and ethnic groups. Curry emphasized the need to fight misinformation, saying too much of today's vaccine skepticism comes from feelings, not data. He urged residents to rely on trusted medical sources and to build stronger relationships with healthcare providers, especially in communities of color where access remains uneven. His message is simple: pay now or pay greater later. Curry says getting vaccinated early is the best way to prevent serious illness, and as he puts it, to know better is to live healthier. On a side note, Boston Fed signals rate cuts to support jobs. Federal Reserve officials are shifting focus from inflation to employment. After years of price hikes, the Fed cut interest rates by 0.25% in September, signaling concerns over a cooling job market. Boston Fed President Susan Collins says with inflation easing, it's time to normalize policy and prevent job losses. Even with more rate cuts ahead, One United Bank President Terry Williams told the Banner that Black unemployment has climbed to 7.5%, often an early warning sign for the broader economy. Next up, education activists are sounding the alarm over new state recommendations that could reopen the door to high-stakes testing in Massachusetts. Last year, voters approved a statewide referendum to end the use of the MCAS exam as a graduation requirement. But this year, a proposal from Governor Maura Healey's graduation council is raising some concerns. The draft suggests students take state-designed end-of-course assessments, a move some fear could reintroduce testing as a barrier to graduation. At a State House press conference, educators and union leaders urged the state to reject any plan that ties diplomas to standardized exams. Harvard professor Jal Almeida said students deserve a range of assessments, not a single pencil-on-paper test. Massachusetts Teachers Association Vice President Deb McCarthy warned that high-stakes testing leads schools to teach to the test, narrowing the curriculum and making learning less engaging. The MCAS, created after the 1993 Education Reform Act, was originally meant to promote accountability. But critics say it became more of a measure of income inequality than student achievement, disproportionately affecting low-income districts like Lawrence and Holyoke, both placed under state receivership in recent years with little improvement in test scores. McCarthy says the state's focus on accountability should broaden to include opportunity gaps and educational justice, rather than punishing struggling districts. Education advocates like MEDA and Union President Max Page are calling for new, deeper learning models, assessments based on essays, research projects, and real-world problem solving, instead of rote memorization.
Greetings, viewers, and welcome to The Intersection, the place where ideas, events, and policy come together to shape public health, safety, and vibrancy of our shared community. I'm your host, Suffolk County Sheriff Steve Tompkins, and together we'll examine a multitude of issues of interest as we travel along the many different avenues that make up the intersection. It's just breakfast. That's how some might see it. But for a growing circle of men here in Boston, it's becoming something far deeper, a gateway to healing, brotherhood, and generational change. On May 11th, Breakfast for Brothers relaunched at the Reggie Lewis Track and Athletic Center. And while the concept is simple, hot food, round tables, and real conversation, the impact is anything but. Born in 2010, this initiative was created as a space for Black and brown men to connect across generations, to share wisdom, to listen, to be seen, and in doing so to dismantle the old harmful notions of masculinity that have left too many young men without guidance and too many communities without stability. As sheriff, I see firsthand how the absence of mentorship and affirmation can shape a young man's path, especially in our justice system. This isn't charity work. This is public safety work. This is community healing. Each gathering begins with a nourishing meal, followed by a real, raw dialect on wellness, fatherhood, identity, and legacy. It's about showing up and staying present. It's about letting young men know they're not alone, and they never were. There's a deep need for this. Loneliness among men is rising. Emotional isolation, structural inequities, and generational trauma are compounding crises. Breakfast for Brothers meets those head on, not with lectures, but with presence. Not with programs, but with people. This work echoes a timeless truth. Our greatest resource is each other. Mentorship doesn't have to be formal or perfect. Sometimes it's just a voice saying, "You matter," a hand on the shoulder, a shared meal, a birthday song that breaks down walls built over years of silence. With support from our office and community partners like Mamleo and Roxbury Community College, Breakfast for Brothers is building a foundation, a place where young men can find belonging and older brothers can reclaim their role as cultural stewards. By breaking bread together, we can change one room, one table, one life at a time. To hear from the program coordinators of Breakfast for Brothers themselves, read our story in the intersection over in the Bay State Banner. Scan the QR code or visit www.baystatebanner.com to read on. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, stay informed, stay involved. We'll see you the next time at the intersection.
Next up, housing and economic stability tied to mental health at City Summit. At Northeastern University, the Boston Public Health Commission hosted a mental health summit that looked beyond clinics and counseling rooms, focused instead on how housing and economic stability shape mental well-being. Experts from across the city agreed mental health doesn't exist in a vacuum. Dr. Kevin Simon, Boston's Chief Behavioral Health Officer, said many residents reaching out for help aren't asking for therapy appointments. They're asking for resources like food, housing, or jobs. Researchers highlighted data linking housing insecurity to psychological distress, especially among Black women facing eviction. Alyssa Benalfew Ramos from the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts put it plainly: when people have stability, they can focus on being well. City leaders, including Housing Chief Sheila Dillon, called for stronger collaboration between public health and housing agencies, noting that residents recovering from eviction rarely receive mental health support. The summit was part of Boston's Live Long and Well initiative, a $10 million push to close health equity gaps by tackling the root causes of poor mental health before they start. Big news for the 12th Baptist Church marking 185 years of faith and resilience. Boston's historic 12th Baptist Church, known as the Fugitive Slave Church, is celebrating 185 years of service, liberation, and faith. Founded in 1805 from the First African Baptist Church on Beacon Hill, 12th Baptist became a refuge on the Underground Railroad under Reverend Leonard Grimes, hosting abolitionists like Frederick Douglass and later inspiring leaders from Martin Luther King Jr. to George Washington Williams. Today, under Reverend Bodrick's leadership, the church continues that legacy through food pantries, affordable housing advocacy, and global missions in Honduras and Liberia. During the pandemic, it distributed more than $350,000 in aid and partnered with Boston Medical Center to vaccinate over 2,500 residents. The celebration also honored former pastors Reverend Dr. Michael E. Haynes, who led for 40 years and bridged the pulpit and policy, and Reverend Dr. Arthur T. Gerald Jr., remembered for championing a theology of action. Mayor Michelle Wu, Senator Liz Miranda, and Senator Ed Markey joined the congregation to mark the occasion. As Reverend Bodrick said, 12th Baptist's mission endures to be a prophetic voice for love, light, and liberation. Youth homelessness in Boston is rising fast, and one local nonprofit is stepping up before winter hits. Bridge Over Troubled Waters, the city's leading organization for unhoused youth, has seen a 26% increase in young people seeking help this year, nearly 2,400 teenagers and young adults. To meet that need, Bridge just launched Boston's first youth-focused public health vending machine, stocked with Narcan, test strips, socks, snacks, and wound care kits. The idea is to make life-saving tools accessible, discreetly and with dignity. CEO Elizabeth Jackson says the goal is simple. If a young person isn't ready to talk about recovery, they can just say they came for socks. The machines track anonymous data to guide outreach teams toward neighborhoods where youth are most in need. Bridge also runs trauma-informed programs, from a Zen garden, space for relaxation, to the youth-led #WhatISayWhatImean campaign, reminding the city that many homeless youth are hidden in plain sight. As winter approaches, Jackson says the message is very urgent. These kids aren't statistics. They're our students, our coworkers, our neighbors. If we make it easy for them to reach out for help, we might just save a life. Next up, we see black men lead the race for next Brockton mayor. For the first time in Brockton's history, 2 black men are leading the race for mayor. City councilors Moises Rodriguez and Jean Bradley Darencourt are vying to succeed outgoing Mayor Robert Sullivan, who stepped down earlier this year. Both candidates, immigrants who arrived from Angola and Haiti as youths, say their priorities include education, homelessness, and revitalizing the local economy. Darencourt, a former Brockton High student who learned English at the city library, emphasizes school investment and after-school programs to keep kids safe and engaged. Rodriguez, meanwhile, wants Beacon Hill to help cover rising school transportation costs and hopes to expand commercial development to ease the city's tax burden on residents. The two differ on a controversial camping and loitering ordinance, with Darencourt opposing fines for people without housing and Rodriguez supporting cleanup programs that employ shelter residents to keep downtown clean. As one local voter put it, whoever wins will need help from everybody. And for New England's blackest city, this election marks a powerful milestone, the chance to elect its first black mayor. An important space we wanted to briefly highlight is a call to raise our voices and spirits. Art has always been more than expression. It's a vessel for truth, courage, and connection. Drawing on the words of Ralph Ellison, the banner reflects on the power of creativity to help us conquer life's chaos and master destiny. From the spirituals born in struggles to the defiant lyrics of hip-hop, black artistry has shaped the world's conscience, calling us to raise our voices, spirits, and minds. Writers like Langston Hughes, Richard Wright, and Ralph Ellison taught that art reveals a society's moral core, while modern voices like Amanda Gorman and Roxbury's Wyatt Jackson reminds us that creativity remains a path to freedom and unity. As the piece concludes, when we know and value the power of culture, it strengthens our determination, and art becomes not just beauty, but service.
Check 1, 2. The show goes on every night. Did you book your trip yet? Boston never gets old.
A year after maternal health reform, advocates push for real change. It's just been over a year since Governor Maura Healey signed Massachusetts' sweeping maternal health omnibus bill, expanding access to midwives, doulas, and mental health support for new mothers. Now, the real work begins: implementation. At a recent panel hosted by Neighbor Health in the South End, State Senator Liz Miranda reminded the crowd that passing a bill is only half the job. The legislation was designed to address a crisis, one where black women and infants in Boston face the highest risks in childbirth and maternal complications. New regulations passed this year aim to change that by expanding birth centers and midwife-led care, giving families more out-of-hospital options and culturally competent support. Advocates say it's not just about saving lives, it's about reshaping care. Michael Curry, head of the Massachusetts League of Community Health Centers, put it plainly: mothers are dying and babies are dying. We have an opportunity to do something different, to change the way we deliver care and reach those most impacted. A follow-up bill now moving through the State House would go further, expanding insurance parity for midwives and creating workforce programs to train and retain more birth professionals across the Commonwealth. For many, it's a turning point. Proof that maternal health reform in Massachusetts isn't just a headline, but a movement to make care fair, accessible, and equitable for every mother and for every child. Next up, Sportsman's Tennis serves up clean energy and community impact. In Dorchester, the Sportsman's Tennis Enrichment Center is doing more than producing champions. It's powering change. The center just unveiled a new solar panel array atop an indoor courts, cutting energy costs while supporting local families. Through a partnership with SunWealth and Resonant Energy, Sportsman joined a low-income community solar program that sends half of the system's energy credits to the center and the other half to Caritas communities, which provided housing and shelter for Boston's residents in need. CEO Tony Wiley says the goal was to be a good neighbor and keep offering top-tier tennis and academic programs affordably while shrinking the center's carbon footprint. The system is expected to generate more than 260,000 kilowatt hours a year, enough to power about 40 homes, and will cover nearly 3/4 of the center's electricity needs. Spencer Glendon of Probable Futures, who helped develop the project, said the solar panels send the message that we can all be part of addressing climate change. The project is part of Sportsman's broader expansion, including new indoor courts, a future fitness center, and more community spaces, all designed with climate resilience and accessibility in mind. And as Wiley put it, we're showing that sports, sustainability, and social impact can all work together to strengthen the community. Next, let's get into some sports. Dodgers and Blue Jays battle in an epic World Series showdown. Baseball fans are still buzzing after a historic Game 3 in the 2025 World Series, where the Los Angeles Dodgers outlasted the Toronto Blue Jays in a 6-hour, 18-inning marathon, the longest World Series game in history. The thriller ended when Freddie Freeman crushed a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 18th, sealing a 6-5 victory for the Dodgers. It was Freeman's second walk-off of the series, making him the first player ever to hit 2 game-winning homers in a single World Series. The game featured unbelievable performances, especially from Shohei Ohtani, who reached base 9 times, including 2 home runs and 2 doubles, setting multiple MLB records. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts praised his team's resolve, saying, "They've just refused to lose." The win gave LA a 2-1 series lead over the Blue Jays, who now face added pressure after George Springer exited with an oblique injury. The 2025 matchup is one for the ages, pitting the defending champion Dodgers, powered by superstars Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freeman, against a gritty Toronto squad led by Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Springer's postseason heroics. The Dodgers are chasing history, aiming to become the first National League team to repeat as champions since the 1976 Cincinnati Reds, while the Blue Jays fight to bring the title back north for the first time in over 30 years. However this series ends, baseball fans are witnessing greatness, in a World Series that's already won for the record books. Next up in sports, athletes continue to shine on court and on the field. Boston's sports scene is thriving. From volleyball courts to running tracks to the football field, our city's young athletes are showing championship heart. The Madison Park High Lady Cardinals are once again Boston City volleyball champions, their second title in 3 years. Under coach William Harvey, the team went undefeated at 17-0, finishing ranked number 2 in the state. They swept East Boston in straight sets to clinch the title behind stellar play from tournament MVP Noela Guerrero, Jasmine McKinney, Rihanna Edwards, and Emily Ramirez. Coach Harvey says the win is extra special, coming against a team led by his own mentor, and he hopes this success brings new scholarship opportunities for his players. On the track, the Boston Lions Track Club claimed their second straight Mayor's Cup title. 7-year-old phenom Legacy Lewis defended her crown in the 8 and under division, while Trinity Franklin and Journey Camilo Murad added key points to secure the team win. Coach Taylor credited hard work, community support, and the leadership of figures like D.A. Kevin Hayden for helping the young runners reach new heights. And finally, a milestone worth celebrating as well. The Boston Raiders Pop Warner football program is marking 50 years of excellence. Founded by Harry Wilson, a Vietnam veteran known as the father of Boston Pop Warner football, and carried on by his brother Dennis Wilson and their families, the Raiders have shaped generations of Boston youth. With 5 national appearances and a number 2 national ranking in 2005, the program's impact extends far beyond the field, building discipline, teamwork, and community pride. A celebration honoring the Raiders' half-century legacy will be held November 8th at the IBEW Local 103 Hall in Dorchester. Next up, let's touch on some music news. At Fenway's MGM Music Hall, art and community took the spotlight as the Boston Arts Academy Foundation hosted its annual Honors Gala under the theme, The Power of Art to Transform Well-Being. The Black Tie celebration brought together donors, artists, and civic leaders to raise $2.5 million in support of Boston's only public high school for the visual and performing arts. Those funds sustained BAA's programs in dance, music, fashion, visual arts, and film, vital opportunities for students across the city. Foundation President Danella Clark told guests that investing in arts education means investing in Boston's future leaders and changemakers. Among the night's honorees were Donnie Wahlberg, recognized with the Lifetime Achievement Award, tap legend Diane Walker, and Grace Lee, CEO of St. Mary's Credit Union, honored for her civic leadership. Then came the show-stopping moment. R&B icon Johnny Gill, a member of New Edition, took the stage alongside 7 Boston Arts Academy students for a moving performance of Can You Stand the Rain? Gill said the experience reminded him to keep going after more than 4 decades in music. Founded in 1998, BAA served over 500 students from nearly all of Boston's neighborhoods, combining conservatory-level arts training with college prep academics. Its new $125 million campus opened in 2022. Expands that vision, but continued funding remains essential. As the crowd delivered a standing ovation, the night closed on one powerful message: that art doesn't just inspire, it transforms lives and builds our communities. In our last story, we remember a great in R&B, D'Angelo. Born Michael Eugene Archer in Richmond, Virginia, the son of a Pentecostal preacher, D'Angelo was raised in the choir, where his gift became his calling. As he once told GQ, the stage is a pulpit. You can stir the pot with music and light, but you got to be careful. That's what made him special. Like Little Richard, Denny Hathaway, Prince, and many artists before him, D'Angelo didn't just sing. He ministered through melody. He carried the spiritual weight of black music, its faith, its pain, and its joy, and it translated into sound that moved souls. When artists like him pass, the loss cuts deep. Because when the music stops, we lose a foundation, one that holds up the people. As RCA Records wrote, he was a peerless visionary who blended soul, funk, gospel, R&B, and jazz with a hip-hop sensibility. D'Angelo's songwriting and unmistakable voice will continue to inspire generations to come. He was more than an artist. He was a messenger. And though he's gone, the ministry of his music still preaches loud and clear. That's a wrap for this week's Bay State Banner Weekend Review. Thanks for tuning in on an exciting week. My name is Brigé Williams, and I will see you all next time.